Desktop lasers aren't known for making fine furniture. Joinery is difficult, they can only cut thin material, they're small, and typically things cut on a laser look like they were cut on a laser. Today, I want to prove all of that wrong by making a full-size Danish modern chair using only the brand new xTool P3, and this video is brought to us by Squarespace. The inspiration for this project came from this old book of mine on making Danish modern furniture. I like the side profile in the drawings, but I don't like how low it sits. These dimensions are more like a lounge style chair, and I want it to sit more upright like these chairs we already have. Comfort-wise, these are some of the most comfortable chairs I've sat in. I've made a few chairs in the past, and I've learned it's best to start off with a prototype, but today I'm pretty confident that this height and angle is going to work. So let's take a chance and attempt to make a final version on the first try. David from the distant future here. The idea for the technique that I'm about to show completely worked, 100%. And I was all done with this video and actually uploaded it for release. But this morning I came up with an even better idea if I were to redo this, like a game-changing, money-making idea. I'll get back to that at the end of the video. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program. The only power tool we're going to use today is the brand new xTool P3, and there's some really cool features on this guy that's going to help us overcome some of the shortcomings of using a laser to make fine furniture. So yes, xTool did send me this machine, so I may have some bias, but I've had 7 different lasers, and I can honestly say this one is the best, and with the integrated software, the easiest laser cutter I have ever used. I think I have a pretty darn good track record about being honest about tools, and I have publicly stated when I don't like a tool. So I hope the excitement that I have for the P3 comes across as honest and authentic. I will talk about what makes the P3 different than other lasers, but more importantly, I want to show you that with a little bit of creativity, you can do a lot with a single tool. Of course, I could use my table saw to make some parts and a router to shape other parts, but I wanted to challenge myself to only use a laser for this project, no other power tools. And I love that I'm taking something from a 50-year-old book and using new technology to make it. We're combining old with new here. Like I've said many times, creativity is just problem solving. So let's solve the first problem, joinery. Normally I draw my projects in 3D using Fusion, but today I'm keeping it simple and drawing in 2D in Illustrator so I can show you how I'm doing the different layers for the joinery. If I were making this out of solid wood, I would cut all the pieces and join them with a mortise and tenon using dowels, biscuits, or dominoes. But by building everything up in layers and offsetting all the seams, when it comes time to glue everything up, the whole side piece is gonna act like one single board. And to keep everything aligned, we're gonna use dowels as registration pins so everything glues up perfectly. Here are the layers in Illustrator. As they stack, the registration holes line up perfectly, and the seams are staggered, and you can see where the horizontal slats will go. We're gonna make this out of 1/4-inch plywood. Here's a fun thing that I just learned about plywood. When you get it in 5x5 sheets, it uses interior glue, and when you get it in 4x8 sheets, it uses exterior glue. And you can tell by the black glue line on the 4x8 sheets, which makes it harder for a laser to cut. So I got everything in 5x5 sheets. This is cut down to 36x18. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it in the machine here. And the cool thing about this is when I set this on the bed, it's gonna take a photo, and it will let me know when it's done taking a photo when this light up here turns green. The camera is actually up in the lid so it can get a photo of the entire bed. So I'm gonna close it, and then it's going to go and grab focus. So it's gonna measure the height of the material. All of this is automatic. My other lasers do not do that. You have no idea how many times I forgot to set focus and got a bad cut on my other lasers. So now it's time to start cutting. One big advantage of the P3 is its bed size, 36 inches by 18 inches, compared to the typical size of a desktop laser, which is around 24 by 14. And it can actually cut much larger than that, but we're gonna get to that a little bit later. I want this chair to be big, heavy, and beefy, so I am stacking 5 layers of 6mm plywood for a total thickness of 1¼ inches. And yes, I am mixing metric and imperial just to trigger the easily triggered. Since grain direction doesn't matter for these inner pieces, I use xTool's built-in nesting feature to automatically lay them out. I've said this many times before, I think xTool makes the best laser software out there. It looks great, it's easy to use, and it's got every feature I would ever need. And I've got plenty of experience with Lightburn, Job Control, and Ruby. And it works on a Mac, Windows, an iPhone, a tablet. Doesn't matter what platform you're using, the xTool software works on it. You can't say that about other software. And you don't even have to wire up your computer to the machine. This is completely unlike any other laser that I have. Water cooling and air assist is built into the P3. My other lasers require external equipment. And the P3 allows for different lenses for cutting different thicknesses of material. This is a feature that I absolutely love because the small lens is going to be perfect when I cut veneers for marquetry. This takes 5 layers, so I'm using this 1/8" walnut plywood. I am not going to use the auto nesting feature for this because I have a very specific way that I want the grain going on all the pieces, since this will be the showpiece. So now that we have all the side pieces cut, we're gonna cut the slats that's gonna go on the bottom and the back. And we're gonna do that out of 1/2" Baltic birch plywood. And we can do that in one pass with the P3. Don't quote me on this, but I don't think any other desktop laser is going to cut 1/2" Baltic birch plywood in one pass. So for my own curiosities, I wanted to see if it could cut 3/4 inch walnuts in a single pass. Check this out. And look at that. That is 3/4 inch walnut in one single pass at a perfect 90 degree. That is incredible. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time a desktop laser this powerful has been available. That means we can cut some really thick material. Where the 80-watt feature will really come in handy is cutting 25mm thick acrylic. That is nearly an inch thick, but we're gonna save that for another video. 1/2" plywood, 1/2". One pass. So one of the problems with desktop lasers is they're not big enough to make fine furniture. So I had my plywood dealer cut some plywood down to 24 inches wide. Length can be whatever, because we've got a trick up our sleeve. So for the second side of the chair, I wanted to show off the pass-through feature of the P3. Now there are other lasers out there that have a pass-through. The P3 has an automatic conveyor feeder that pulls the material in and out of the machine to an infinite length up to 24 inches wide. When you open the front door, you expose the pass-through. Add the front and back tracks, and after the machine measures and focuses, it clamps the board and feeds it through automatically. And unlike other conveyors, the P3 allows the laser head to move up and down inside the machine while feeding materials. There are 5 layers that equal 1¼ inch thick. The 2 outside layers, I'm gonna do part 2 in this glue up. So for right now, we're just going to glue up the inside 3 layers. I've got all the pieces laid out for the first layer, and I've got dowels as registration pins. I also sacrificed one of the slats that will also be used as registration. And then the next layer has different seams than the first layer. So as they overlap, there's no joinery between all the pieces. It's going to look like joinery when we add the final layer, but there's all the strength is just because there's none of the seams match up. This will go right on top. Here's what I've learned. All the dowels should be the same length, and you should taper the tops of them. It would make this 100 times easier. Also, put the glue on the piece that's going down, not the piece that's already down, so you can concentrate on one piece at a time. What does Jimmy Dresses say? You go to school on the first one. I also sacrificed one of the slats just to make sure it would kind of fit in there, and I thought I was going to use them for registration, but everything just freaking lines up. And that is all of my Harbor Freight clamps. So now the middle section is dry. I'm gonna glue on the inside section, which is slightly different. It has all the slots for the slats, but it doesn't have the holes for the dowels because it will be seen. And so I wanted to glue this on separately just so I could kind of take my time and get it lined up. I'm gonna use these blocks to make sure it still registers with all the other pieces. All we have left to do for the right side is take our walnut panels and glue them into place. There's no registration for these, so I just got to be really careful and make sure it goes exactly where it needs to go. Now we're just working on the other side. It's rinse and repeat, except everything goes the opposite way. Now all the dowels are the same length. Goes on a little easier. I tapered the ends. Yeah, this glue up is gonna be much easier. So while I glue up the rest of this, I'd like to tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. I've been using Squarespace for well over a decade now, and I used to make websites for a living. I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to worry about code, cloud, the back end, none of that. Squarespace takes care of all of that for me. It makes my life easier, and it's gonna make your life easier. You're probably a lot like me, a maker, a woodworker, an artist. You're gonna need a place to show off your work, and Squarespace is the perfect place to do so. They have a number of image galleries to choose from. They have a number of templates to choose from. I'm using one of their default templates myself, and it doesn't look like every other website out there because I'm able to get in there, rearrange things, change the colors, all with ease. So you can make the website look however you want. Their templates are just a great starting point. Or if you don't want to do any of that, just use the templates and you're good to go. It has always been easy to set up a Squarespace site, but it has never been easier. You're gonna answer a few questions about what you want your site, what kind of pages you want, stuff about your business, and Squarespace is gonna automatically set up your website for you in the background. It's gonna populate the pages, then you can go in and replace all that content with your photos and content. The great thing about that is, instead of focusing on one single page at a time and trying to worry about navigation, it's already set up for you. You just go in and just put in your content. Telling you, it has never been easier to set up a Squarespace site. They actually make my website enjoyable to use and update. Last clamp. So visit squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, visit squarespace.com/makesomething to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. We are getting really close. Just a couple more pieces to glue on here. Now that that is dry, the inside piece without the registration dowels, because I don't want them to be seen on the inside of the chair when you're sitting in it. So we're getting ready to glue the assemblies together. I thought I was going to leave the burn marks on there and finish over top of that so it would have nice dark edges. But then I decided, nah, I'm gonna sand them away. So we did. So now let's put this guy together. This isn't stressful at all. It's working. It's working. I've never done this before. This is an experiment that just happens to work. That worked. I got a lot of squeeze out all over the place, but that worked. So we're gonna let that dry for an hour or two and finish this up. The chair is finished and I love it. And I think this proves that you can actually build real furniture with just a desktop laser. But here's the crazy thing. I didn't even get into half the features of this thing. The P3 has multiple cameras and a LiDAR system that measure your material and line everything up automatically. And because it's an 80-watt CO2 tube, they built in a serious water chiller, the kind you would only see on big industrial machines. That keeps the power stable even on long jobs. The safety on the P3 is like no other. It has multiple flame sensors and even an automatic fire extinguisher if something ever flares up. Knowing all this is running in the background makes it a lot easier to focus on the project instead of worrying about the tool. I have been done with this chair for about 30 hours and I had already edited the video and uploaded it to YouTube, but just this morning I had a major breakthrough on how I would make this or any piece of furniture, and I would do it completely different than I just did in the video. And I got an example of how I would do that here. I'm gonna get to that in a second. What I forgot to mention in the video was the brand new P3 compared to the P2. I had the P2, absolutely great machine. But if you're buying this as a business, the P3 is way more powerful. It's got a bigger bed, and we didn't even talk about the engraving capabilities. This is a lot faster than the previous version. That's how technology goes. We want these companies to keep innovating and improving their products. So if you're a business, time is money. It's more powerful, it's got a bigger bed, it's much faster, plus there's all kinds of automation and smart features built right into it. Let's talk about this technique. If you are a business and you buy the P3, you're gonna want a return. So let me give you a possible money-making idea here. So we would still build everything up in layers, but instead of staggering the seams, which I don't actually like the way the seams look staggered on here, this would improve that look as well. We actually make a mortise and tenon. So on the inside layers, the pieces have the tenon, the outside layers don't, and then the inside piece has the mortise. So we're still building everything up in layers. And then we also cut a hole for a dowel. So you could make flat pack furniture that your customers could, this could be a kit that your customers glue together, and then they take a dowel and pound that in. You don't even need clamps anymore. This dowel is your clamp and you have a very strong glue joint. I think this is a much, much better solution than what I did. This could be a kit for children to put together their own furniture, you know, with the help of the parents, of course. This could be flat pack furniture that you make and sell to customers. So a really, man, if I could go back in time, I would do this. And then two more things I would change about this particular design is the outside layer I would make out of solid 1/8 inch walnut instead of plywood walnut. That way you could really round over the edges and you can, you know, expose that that outside is solid walnut. I would also put one more brace right here between these two legs, like this other chair that we bought has here. There's nothing wrong with the sturdiness here. It doesn't have much racking, but you can tell that the legs want to split out just a little bit. I don't have any concerns with the current design, but if I were going to do it again, I would just add that brace just to be 100% certain that this is going to live forever. I've actually brought the P3 into my main shop because this is going to be my go-to laser from here on out. And I no longer need that big, massive laser that takes up a parking space in Kelly's garage. Sorry about that, Kelly. I know this video is a little bit different than my other videos, and we don't normally dive into tool specs on this channel, but I hope you got something out of it, and I hope it sparked some creative ideas. And at the very least, I hope you were entertained. I promise you, we have some really cool creative projects in the works. That is gonna wrap it up. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something. Rest in peace, Rick Davies. Rest in peace. No. Don't film this. We can't show any other power tools. Cut.